Hello everyone, welcome to This Week in the EPL. Today, I will be giving you my Match Week 31 Premier League predictions. Before I jump into my Match Week 31 predictions, I do want to do a little recap of Match Week 30. So, my predictions last week were dreadful. I only got 3 out of 11 matches correct, which is one of my worst this season. That said, there were some notable upsets, including Arsenal losing to Brighton, Sheffield losing to Newcastle, and Liverpool and Everton drawing. Now, for our first match, we have Leicester City versus Brighton. Leicester's coming off a 1-1 draw against Watford, where they looked good, but their finishing was very rusty. They created tons of chances, but just couldn't find the back of the net consistently. Versus Brighton, who are coming off a massive win against Arsenal that now pushes them 5 points above relegation. That said, I think Leicester are a bad matchup for Brighton. As Brighton look to play and open up and expand like they do, I think Leicester will then look to counter, push numbers forward through their fullbacks, and exploit Brighton's so-so defense. So I have it ending 2-1 to Leicester City with goals from Vardy and Maddison for Leicester and a goal from Maupay for Brighton. Tottenham Hotspur versus West Ham United. Spurs are coming off a 1-1 draw at Manchester United in a game I think they were a bit lucky to get a point from. That said, they defended really well in banks of 4 and 5 in a classic Mourinho style. They will also see the return of Dele Alli in this match from his 1-game suspension. And they're playing a West Ham United team that is coming off a 2-0 defeat against Wolves in a match where I think they played relatively well, but once the game opened up around 70 minutes, they struggled. And I don't think they produced enough going forward. They only had 2 shots on target and didn't look dangerous at all. So I had this match ending 3-0 to Spurs because I don't think West Ham will be able to produce anything against a solid Spurs defense. I have a brace from Son and a goal from Dele Alli in his return. Manchester United versus Sheffield United. Man United are coming off a 1-1 draw versus Spurs, where once Paul Pogba entered the pitch, they looked electric. The connection between Pogba and Bruno was fantastic and everything the United fans dreamed of. That said, there are still defensive question marks surrounding David De Gea after his mistake, and then also Harry Maguire, who appeared to turn into a statue at times on the pitch. Contrast that, though, with the Sheffield side that drew 0-0 to Villa and then lost embarrassingly to Newcastle United 3-0, and who have seemed to lost their momentum that they had throughout the first half of this season. So I do have this game edging to Manchester United, let me clarify, 3-1 with goals from Rashford, Pogba, and Martial. Newcastle United versus Aston Villa. Newcastle are coming off a surprising 3-0 win versus Sheffield United, where they actually looked quite good and quite dangerous. That said, they were sort of gifted the match by Sheffield after a red card and major defensive errors. So although it was a good performance from Newcastle and we saw the likes of St. Maximin absolutely playing fantastic, I wouldn't put too much stock behind that. Contrast that with the Villa side, though, that also drew to Sheffield and then played very well against Chelsea. Clearly the inferior side, but created lots of good chances and defended relatively well. There still are tons of question marks for this Villa side defensively, but they've impressed me since the return from COVID-19. So I had this game going 2-1 to Villa in a slight upset with goals from Grealish and El Ghazi and a goal for Newcastle from St. Maximin. Norwich City versus Everton. Norwich are coming off a really poor loss against Southampton where they lost 3-0. Looked like a shell of themselves. Didn't seem to have any fight or desire to win the match, and genuinely it looked like their defenders were trying to social distance from the Southampton attackers. Contrast that with Everton, who played well against Liverpool, were clearly not the better side, but had a lot of dangerous attacking plays out of Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin. And a fun little fact, since Boxing Day, Calvert-Lewin has scored the most goals in the Premier League with 8 goals, so a man in very good form. And because of that, I have it ending 2-0 to Everton with goals from Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison. Wolves versus Bournemouth. Wolves is coming off a 2-0 win against West Ham, and it was a classy performance. They were patient, persistent, And once they introduced Adam Traore, boy did he change the game. He looked really good and caused lots of problems down the left-hand side of West Ham's defense. Versus a Bournemouth team that lost 2-0 to Palace and gave up goals early, and from then on it was obvious the match was over. They've scored the third fewest goals in the Premier League, Bournemouth have, and now they're losing Ryan Fraser, who has announced he will not re-sign with the club, and that's going to be a big hit because he's one of their better attacking players. So I had this match ending 3-1 to Wolves with goals from Traore, Jimenez, and Neves, and a goal for Bournemouth from Callum Wilson. Liverpool versus Crystal Palace. Liverpool coming off a disappointing 0-0 draw versus Everton. Didn't look dangerous going forward at all, and we're clearly missing the energy of Andy Robertson and the electricity that Mo Salah brings to the pitch. Now looking at this Palace side, they're coming off an impressive 2-0 win versus Bournemouth. A side, though, that struggles to score, and I think they will struggle to score against this Liverpool backline that is one of the best in the Premier League. However, Palace themselves are an exceptional team defensively and hard to break down. That said, I do have it ending 1-0 to Liverpool with a goal from Mo Salah and his return to the Premier League. Burnley versus Watford. So Burnley will be playing Manchester City later today, so I have not seen them play a Premier League match yet. That said, they are a well-organized defensive team that will sit in and then counter, but their play is quite predictable and easy to pick up, which I think could help Watford. Watford is coming off a very impressive draw against Leicester, a 1-1-1, where they were very good. And since Nigel Pearson has stepped in, they've looked fantastic. They look like a different football club. So I do have a bit of an upset here. I have a 2-1 Watford win with goals from Ismail Assar and Decore and a goal for Chris Wood for Burnley. Southampton versus Arsenal. This is going to be an interesting one. Southampton are coming off a massive 3-0 victory against Norwich where they looked fantastic. Danny Ings in particular was going absolutely berserk as he has done all season. I think this Southampton team will not be afraid of a wounded Arsenal side and will attack and get after them. And talking about Arsenal, I mean, they were pitiful their first two matches back, losing to Man City, losing to Brighton, look like a shell of themselves, and especially their center backs have struggled defensively, and I see it ending 1-1 with a goal from Aubameyang for Arsenal and a goal from Danny Ings for Southampton on odds of 5-2. Chelsea versus Manchester City, our final match of the week. I may be doing a live stream for this one, so just a little heads up. This is going to be a super exciting match. Chelsea are coming off a 2-1 win against Villa where they looked quite good and had a fantastic performance from N'Golo Kanté, who has recovered from his injuries and is now back to top tier form. He just seemed to be everywhere in that match. Versus a City side that had a really good win against Arsenal. Their front three looked dominant, and look out for Kevin De Bruyne in this match. In my opinion, it's going to be a head-to-head battle between Kanté and De Bruyne. Can Kanté stop De Bruyne is the question for me, and I think he will have a big enough impact on the game where I have it ending a 1-1 draw with a goal for Man City for Raheem Sterling and a goal for Chelsea from Tammy Abraham on odds of 14-5. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Let me know in the comments your Match Week 31 Premier League predictions. Also, if you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. It would mean a lot to me if you do that. And also, please hit that subscribe button if you want more amazing football content. Anyways, thank you and take it easy. Peace.